After 28 years of marriage, I visited my wife's office. The security guard laughed and said, "Sir, I see your husband every day. There he is coming out right now." I watched another man walk out of the building in a charcoal Tom Ford suit, early 40s, confident stride, expensive watch catching the afternoon light. The kind of guy who belonged on the cover of Forbes. "Mr. Sterling," the guard called out, "your wife's still in her 3 o'clock meeting. Should be done in about 20 minutes. The man, Frank Sterling according to his security badge, nodded and headed toward the elevator bank. He hadn't seen me yet. I was standing off to the side, holding a takeout bag from Osteria, Lauren's favorite Italian place downtown, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. 28 years. I'd been married to Lauren for 28 years, and apparently she had another husband at work. Every instinct screamed at me to confront him, to walk over there and demand answers, to make a scene. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the casual certainty in the guard's voice, like it was common knowledge, like everyone knew except me. "You know what?" I said to the guard, keeping my voice steady. "I think I have the wrong building. I'm looking for Gerald Pharmaceuticals, not Meridian Tech." The guard looked confused. "You said you were Mrs. Sterling's husband." "Gerald's my name. Must have gotten my wires crossed." I forced a laugh. "Been a long day." I set the takeout bag on the security desk. "Actually, could you make sure Lauren gets this? Just say Gerald dropped it off. Family friend." I walked out before my legs could give out, my mind reeling. Frank Sterling, Lauren's VP of Operations. I'd met him exactly once at a company holiday party 2 years ago. Tall, charismatic. Lauren had introduced him as one of my rising stars and spent most of the evening discussing quarterly projections while I made small talk with other spouses. I'd thought nothing of it. Why would I? I trusted my wife completely. But the security guard had called him Mr. Sterling, had said he saw Lauren's husband every day. Not boyfriend, not business partner, husband. I didn't go home right away. Couldn't face our empty house. The one I'd spent the morning cleaning, where I'd made Lauren's favorite lasagna for dinner, where I'd been planning to surprise her with Hamilton tickets for our anniversary next month. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop and sat in a corner booth, staring at my untouched black coffee while my 22 years as a senior accountant kicked into analytical mode. Numbers don't lie. Patterns don't lie. And what I just witnessed suggested a pattern I'd been blind to for God knows how long. Lauren made 3 times my $6,200 monthly take-home salary as CEO of Meridian Technologies. She'd built the company from a struggling startup into a $200 million operation in 8 years. I'd supported every late night, every business trip, every weekend she spent reviewing financials instead of having dinner with me. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You support their dreams. We'd met when we were both 23. Me, fresh out of accounting school, her finishing her MBA at Northwestern. She was brilliant, ambitious, the kind of woman who made 5-year plans and actually executed them. I was the steady one, the practical foundation she could build on. She always said I was her rock, that she could take career risks because she knew I kept everything stable at home. No kids. Lauren said they'd derail her trajectory. I'd accepted that. Her career was her baby. But now, sitting in this coffee shop, with my world crumbling, I realized I might have been funding more than just her career ambitions. My phone buzzed at Lauren. "Working late again? Don't wait up. Love you." Love you? Did she? Or was I just the safety net? The guy who paid half the mortgage while she lived a double life? I typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on. "Okay, there's lasagna in the fridge. You're the best. See you late tonight." The best, right. Lauren came home looking tired, hair slightly mussed, lipstick faded. She reheated the lasagna I'd made and sat across from me in our living room, eating while I pretended to read the same page I'd been staring at for 3 hours. "I actually stopped by your office today," I said casually. "Brought you lunch from Osteria." She paused mid-bite, just for a second. A tiny hesitation most people wouldn't notice. But I'd been married to her for 28 years. I noticed everything. "You did?" I didn't get anything. "I gave it to Frank Sterling. Figured he could pass it along." "Oh." Another bite. Chewed. Swallowed. "He didn't mention it. Busy day, you know." She was lying perfectly. not a single crack in her composure. "How is Frank?" I asked. "He's great. Best VP I've ever worked with. Really gets the vision. We're in sync on pretty much everything." In sync. Interesting word choice. "That's good. Important to have a strong working relationship." "Absolutely," she smiled, the same smile I'd fallen in love with 28 years ago. "Thanks for trying to bring me lunch, though. That was sweet." We sat there like a normal married couple on a Tuesday night, except nothing was normal anymore. I waited until she was asleep. Lauren always crashed hard after her caffeine-fueled days, sleeping deeply enough that I could slip into her study without detection. Her laptop was on the desk, password protected with our wedding date, RO61V96. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her calendar looked normal at first glance, meetings, board calls, conferences, but patterns emerged quickly when you knew what to look for. Dinner with F, 7 p.m. at Il Posto. That was 2 weeks ago. Il Posto was a romantic Italian restaurant with candlelit tables and live piano music, not where you take your VP for business discussions. Weekend retreat, Grand Geneva Resort, last month. Lauren had told me it was a women's leadership conference. I pulled up the resort's website. $450 per night for suites. Her credit card statements told a different story. 2 rooms initially booked at Grand Geneva, both on the corporate card, but one charge was canceled. 1 room, 2 people. My stomach dropped as I kept digging. More dinners, more trips, a clear pattern spanning 3 years. All coded, all deniable as business expenses, except Frank's name appeared on every single entry. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 6 years. Monroe & Associates would survive without their senior accountant for a day. I had more pressing matters to investigate. After Lauren left for work, kissing my forehead and telling me to feel better, I began a systematic search of our home. In the back of her jewelry drawer, hidden under costume necklaces she never wore, I found a key attached to a keychain tag. Harbor View Apartments, Unit 214. Harbor View was a luxury complex in River North. 30-story building, floor-to-ceiling windows, studios starting at $2,500 monthly. I'd driven past it dozens of times, never imagining my wife had a life there. The parking garage had spaces marked by unit numbers. Space 214 contained a black Mercedes GLE, Frank Sterling's car from the company lot. My hands shook as I rode the elevator to the second floor. The key fit Unit 214 perfectly. Inside was a fully furnished apartment, not a temporary rental, a home. Hardwood floors, modern furniture, fresh flowers on the coffee table. The air smelled like Lauren's Chanel No. 5, the expensive perfume she only wore for special occasions. Photos on the mantle showed Lauren and Frank at beaches, restaurants, hiking trails. In every picture, Lauren wasn't wearing her wedding ring. The kitchen had 2 sets of everything: dishes, coffee mugs, his and hers, items arranged like a married couple's home. The bedroom made me physically ill. King-size bed with expensive linens, Lauren's clothes hanging beside Frank's suits. Shoes lined up together like they'd been cohabiting for years. On the dresser sat a folder labeled Future Plans in Lauren's distinctive handwriting. Inside were real estate listings for houses in Evanston, Oak Park, Wilmette, all $800,000 to $1.2 million, circled with notes like good schools nearby and love the kitchen. Travel brochures for Santorini, Tokyo, New Zealand marked dream honeymoon destinations. Underneath the fantasy planning lay legal documents, divorce consultation summaries dated 18 months ago. Lauren had shopped 3 different attorneys for the best deal. The strategy notes were clinical and devastating. Frame as irreconcilable differences, cite Gerald's lack of ambition and emotional distance, document instances of his failure to support my career growth. She'd been building a case against me, reframing every normal marital friction as evidence of my inadequacy. Times I'd asked her to skip work events became undermining her career. My contentment with my accounting job became lack of ambition. Not wanting to discuss office politics at dinner became emotional unavailability. The most recent note, dated 3 weeks ago, laid out her complete timeline. File for divorce by January 2025. Finalized by June. Wedding with F by Christmas 2025. I photographed everything, then sat on their couch in their secret apartment, processing the fact that my 28-year marriage had been a calculated deception for at least 3 years. Back home, I called in sick again and dove into the financial records with my accountant's expertise. The pattern was immediately obvious once I knew what to look for. Our joint checking showed consistent deposits. My $6,200 monthly, Lauren's roughly $11,000. Our expenses, mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, totaled about $8,500 monthly. We should have been saving $8,700 monthly. Over 3 years, that should be over $300,000 in savings. Our savings account had $47,000. Where had $250,000 gone? Lauren's personal credit card, the one supposedly for reimbursable business expenses, told the story. Harbor View Apartments. $3,200 monthly rent for 3 years, totaling $115,200. Furniture purchases. $24,000 from West Elm, Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, travel. $31,000 to luxury destinations. Dining. Hundreds of charges at expensive restaurants. She'd been funding her entire secret life with our joint money, my money. While I ate leftovers and drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic, she'd been playing house with Frank Sterling in a $3,200 per month apartment using money I'd earned. But the financial analysis revealed something even more damaging. As a senior accountant, I knew how to read corporate filings, and Meridian Technologies documents told a disturbing story. Lauren had been quietly restructuring the company without board approval, positioning Frank as her successor. She'd moved resources into his department, given him control over key accounts, positioned him for promotion to a COO role that didn't yet exist. She was building him a golden ladder while making herself look like a strategic kingmaker. But she'd done it by redirecting company resources without proper authorization, making financial decisions that benefited her personal relationship rather than shareholder interests. That was corporate misconduct, possibly fraud. I organized everything into folders, built timelines, and made a decision that would change everything. I called David Blackwood. David Blackwood was Meridian's board chairman, retired hedge fund manager, late 60s, sharp as they come. I'd met him twice at company events. Gerald Hartman, I said when he answered. Lauren's husband. We met at the holiday party 2 years ago. Of course. How are you? Is Lauren all right? She's fine. I'm calling about concerns regarding the company. A pause. What kind of concerns? The kind involving unauthorized corporate restructuring and misuse of company resources. Do you have time to meet today? Another pause, longer this time. I can be at your office in 2 hours. I work from home. I'll text you the address. David Blackwood arrived at 2 p.m. sharp, tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. I offered coffee, which he accepted, and we sat in my living room where Lauren and I had built what I'd thought was our life together. Show me what you've got, David said. I walked him through everything. The apartment, the photos, the divorce planning documents, the corporate restructuring. His expression darkened with each revelation. Jesus Christ, he muttered when I showed him the financial irregularities. She's been redirecting capital expenditure budgets without board approval, specifically to benefit Frank Sterling's department. Why would she do that? I pulled up the apartment photos. David's jaw tightened. They're having an affair, more than that. They're living together part-time. She's planning to divorce you and marry him while positioning him to take over the company. That's a massive conflict of interest. She has fiduciary duty to the board, to shareholders. He ran a hand through his hair. Do you have copies of all this? I handed him a USB drive. Bank records, corporate filings, photos, timeline, everything. I need to call an emergency board meeting. He stood up. Gerald, I'm sorry for what she's done to you personally, but thank you. If this had gone unchecked much longer, the damage could have been catastrophic. I'm not doing this for revenge, I said, though that was partly a lie. I'm doing it because it's the truth, and I'm done pretending not to see what's right in front of me. David shook my hand. I'll be in touch. Lauren came home at earlier than usual. I was making chicken stir-fry when she walked in. One look at her face told me David had already called the emergency board meeting. You son of a bitch, she said, voice shaking. You called David Blackwood. My own husband is trying to destroy my career. I kept stirring vegetables without turning around. I shared information the board should have. Information? You showed him private photos. You went through my personal files. Your personal files in our shared apartment. Your personal life funded by our joint bank account. She grabbed my arm, spinning me around. This is different. This is my professional reputation. Sleeping with your VP while restructuring the company to benefit him personally? That's professional. Her face went pale. What do you want? She asked quietly. Money? The house? What? I don't want anything from you, Lauren. You set this in motion 3 years ago. I'm just refusing to be the fool while you execute your plan. What plan? I pulled out my phone, showing her photos from the apartment. This plan, the one where you divorce me by January, marry Frank by Christmas, and live happily ever after in your Evanston dream home. She sat heavily on a kitchen chair. How did you? I found the key to your other life. I turned off the stove and grabbed my keys. 28 years, Lauren. I supported every decision you made, every sacrifice, because I loved you, because I thought we were building something together. No, you were building an exit strategy and I was funding it. She started crying, real tears this time. I'm sorry, I never meant for it to happen like this. How did you mean for it to happen? Were you going to tell me before or after you filed for divorce? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. I headed for the door. I'll have divorce papers drawn up by Monday. Wait. There's nothing left to say, Lauren. You made your choice years ago. I'm just catching up. I filed for divorce that Monday, hiring Jennifer Kowalski, a family law attorney with 23 years' experience. She reviewed my evidence and whistled. This is one of the clearest cases of marital misconduct I've ever seen. The secret apartment, financial deception, documented timeline of a planning to leave you. You're going to do very well in this divorce. I don't care about doing well. I just want out. You should care. She used marital funds to support an affair. That's financial infidelity. Illinois law takes that seriously. The board meeting happened that afternoon. David called me at Frank Sterling has been terminated effective immediately. Lauren's on administrative probation with severely restricted authority pending full investigation. We've hired a forensic accountant for complete audit. If we find fiduciary duty violations or fraud, she could face criminal charges. She built this house of cards, Gerald. You just knocked it down. Lauren called that night while I sat in a Marriott near O'Hare, eating takeout Chinese. You've destroyed everything, she sobbed. Frank lost his job. The board is investigating me. My career is over. How could you do this? How could I? My voice was ice. You spent 3 years planning my replacement. You stole $250,000 from our joint account to fund your affair. You committed corporate fraud to benefit your lover. And you're asking how I could do this? I was going to tell you. When? After you filed for divorce? After you married Frank by Christmas like you planned? Silence. I know everything, Lauren. The apartment, the lawyers, the timeline, the real estate listings. Please, her voice broke. We can fix this. I'll end things with Frank. We can go to counseling. Frank already lost his job because of you. Now you want to abandon him too? At least be consistent in who you betray. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed bitterly. You spent 28 years building my trust just to execute the perfect betrayal. You documented every small argument as evidence against me while I cooked dinner and supported your career. I loved you. No, you loved what I provided. Stability, financial security, a foundation to build your empire on. The second you found someone who fit your life better, you started planning to trade me in. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You were going to make me the villain. All those notes about my lack of ambition, my emotional distance, my failure to support your career. You were going to divorce me and make it my fault. Please, Gerald, 28 years has to mean something. It did. Past tense. You killed it when you got that key to apartment 214. I hung up and blocked her number. The divorce took 4 months. Lauren fought initially, but Jennifer was right. The evidence was overwhelming. I got the house, she kept her car, and damaged reputation. The board investigation concluded that Lauren had violated her fiduciary duty by restructuring the company to benefit her personal relationship. She was forced to resign in March 2025 with no golden parachute, no severance package, just gone. Frank Sterling filed a wrongful termination lawsuit against both Lauren and Meridian Tech. It was dismissed. Having an affair with your CEO while benefiting from unauthorized corporate restructuring is actually a fireable offense. They broke up 3 months after everything collapsed. Frank blamed Lauren for ruining his career. Lauren blamed Frank for not being worth the sacrifice. Neither took responsibility for their choices. I sold the house in June. Too many ghosts. Bought a condo in Lakeview. Smaller, simpler, mine. Started dating again in August, testing waters, learning to trust. My therapist says betrayal trauma takes time to heal, that I shouldn't rush anything. I'm not rushing anymore. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one truth at a time. I ran into Lauren once, 8 months post-divorce. She was at Whole Foods looking at organic vegetables. She'd lost weight, looked tired, our eyes met. She froze. I nodded and kept walking. Part of me wondered if I should feel sorry for her. She'd lost everything. But then I remembered apartment 214, the future plans folder, those cold, calculated notes about building a case against me. I didn't feel sorry. I felt free. 2 years later, I got a LinkedIn message from Frank Sterling. I know you have no reason to talk to me, but I wanted to apologize. I knew she was married. I knew what we were doing was wrong. I told myself the marriage was already over, that we were in love, that it justified everything. It didn't. You deserved better. I stared at that message for a long time, then closed it without responding. Some apologies come too late to matter. People ask if I regret how I handled it, if I should have confronted Lauren privately. The answer is no. She'd had 3 years to tell the truth, 3 years to choose our marriage over her affair. She chose Frank, the apartment, the future she was building without me. I just made sure everyone knew what she'd chosen. 3 years post-divorce, I'm sitting in my condo on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and reading news. My phone buzzes, a text from Amy, someone I met at a bookstore, who knows my whole history and chose me anyway. Brunch at 11, that French place you love? I smile and text back. Perfect, see you there. I look out at Lake Michigan, gray and choppy today. Behind me, my home is quiet, small, honest. No secret apartments, no hidden lives, no carefully constructed lies. Just truth, simple, painful, free. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.